Hello, it's Mrs. Meekings. It's Tuesday, so it's day 2 of the Year 6 maths work. Now, I'm going to prove today that you don't have to print everything off to be able to do maths work. We've been trying to think about that at school, so you can have a look at the questions on the screen as I'm looking at them on the iPad at the moment, and then do your workings out either in a workbook or on some paper if you've got some. So I'm going to start off today. I've got my workbook here and all my apparatus. I'm going to start off by writing the date. Now, quite often in maths, we write the date in Roman numerals. So I'm going to think about writing today's date in Roman numerals. It's Tuesday the 5th, so that would be a V for the 5th. Tuesday the 5th of May, which is the 5th month, 2020. Now, we don't write 2020, we write 2020. So 1,000 is M, which makes 2000 MM. And then the 20 would be 2 10s in Roman numerals, XX. So I've got the 5th of the 5th, 2020. Oh, look at that. That makes a pattern there. The 5th of the 5th, 2020. Right, going back to my questions. So for question 1, at the start of May, there were 3,043 cans of fizzy orange in the shops. During May, 11,392 more cans were delivered. So that means I'm going to add them on if they were delivered, I think. And then 13,832 cans of fizzy orange were sold. How many cans of fizzy orange were left in the shop at the end of June? I think that should say May because we don't know about June. So let's work out the end of May. Right, so I'm going to look at the number of cans they had to start with and then add on how many were delivered. So let's have a look at my calculation. At the start of May, there were 3,043 cans. And then they had 11,000, let's make sure we line that up properly, 11,392 more cans delivered. So we'll add that to show that they've been delivered. So adding those together, 3 add 2 is 5, 4 add 9, that's the same as 10 add 3, so that's 13, 0 add 3, add the 1 is 4, 3 add 1 is 4, and then I've got the 1 from the 10,000s. So looking back to my question, I always need to look back rather than write the answer to check whether we've answered. We've got some more to do. 13,832 cans were sold. So if they were sold, we're going to take those away. So it's 13,832 cans were sold. I'm expecting my answer to be round about 1,000 because I've got 14,000 and 13,000 there. So 5 take away 2 is 3, 3 take away 3 is 0, 4 take away 8, I can't do that, so I'm going to go here and take a 3. I'm not borrowing because I don't give it back, I'm exchanging it and making that into 14. So that gives me 6, there's nothing there and 0 there. So my answer is 603 cans. And looking back at the question, just to make sure that there is nothing else I need to do with it. No. Question 2. Evie eats 3/4 of a 120 gram chocolate bar. Josh eats 70%. Oh, it's the same of a 120 gram chocolate bar. Circle the person who eats the most chocolate. So normally on these you might have to work it out, but I don't need to work it out. It's the same amount of chocolate, so I'm just looking at the fraction and the decimal. Hopefully everybody recognises 3/4 there as 75%. So that could be one of my answers. Evie eats the most because she eats 75% and Josh only eats 70%. So we know that we get the mark here for explaining. So I'm going to write that down as one of my answers. Evie eats 3/4. When it says explain, it's tempting to just use words, but you need the numbers as well. Equals 75%. This is more than 70%. So that will get me the mark because I have explained that 3/4 is more than 70%. The other way to get the mark is to work them out, and I'm going to do that anyway, just to prove that we are correct. So we're going to work out 3/4 of 120 grams. Lots of different ways to do this, but the way that I'm going to do today is to find a quarter, and then I'm going to times that by 3 to make 3/4. So I'm going to find a quarter by halving it and halving it again. Half of that is 60, so a quarter is 30 grams because that's half of 60. So for 3/4, I need to do 3 multiplied by 30 grams to give me 90 grams. So that's how much Evie eats, and we're going to prove that she eats more than Josh. Josh has 70% of 120 grams. There's lots of different ways to do this one as well. The way I'm going to do it is to use these key percentages, 50%, and then I'm going to use 10% and then use my 10% to help me with 20%. So 50% is the same as half. I've already halved that, so 50% is 60 grams. 10%, so to find 10% of a number, because 10% is the same as 1/10, I'm going to divide that by 10. So that's 12 grams. 10% isn't any good on its own. I need to find 20% to be able to help me solve this. 10% is 12, then 20% is double that, just like ratio. You double that, so we're going to double the amount as well. So it's 24 grams. So hopefully you can spot now I've got enough to work out 70%. 50% add 20% is 70%. So I'm going to do 60 grams, add 24 grams. So that's giving me 84 grams for how much Josh eats. So that would be my other proof. I would be able to say Evie eats 90 grams, Josh eats 60 grams. Oh, sorry, not 60 grams. I don't know where I got that from. 84 grams, copying the wrong part. But I'd have to show my calculations to get that one there. Right, let's look at the next question. So question 3. So for question 3, it says, Tallulah records the temperature outside on a cold Saturday in Norwich. She plots her readings on the line graph. So we can see it's cold because some of the temperatures go below 0 and then it warms up later in the day. What's the difference between the highest and the lowest temperature? Okay, so looking at my graph, I can see the lowest temperature there is -5 degrees. So I'm going to write that in my notebook. And the highest temperature is 7 degrees. Now, some of you will be able to work that answer out straight away, but I'm going to demonstrate what the answer is using my empty number line again. So I've got my 0, I've got -5, and then I've got 7. So the difference is 5 to take me from -5 to 0, and then 7 to take me from 0 to 7. So the difference equals 12 degrees C. So that's my answer there. At what time was it 4 degrees? Oh, what time or times? So let's have a look. 4 degrees, and if I use my pencil there, hard to do while looking through the phone. 4 degrees, I can trace down here. If you're doing this on a paper copy, I suggest you draw these lines. So 9 a.m. is one answer. Luckily we spotted it said time or times, so I need to put the other one. It's always worth checking that you've got all of them. Oh, it's another nice easy one because the 4 crosses again on a line to give me 2 p.m. So my answer is 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. And the final question. The temperature decreases by 4 degrees from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. At what time was it 1 degree? Now, really this question should say decreases at a consistent rate or a constant rate. It doesn't, so I think it wants us to assume that. So looking at the graph, it's saying it went down 4 degrees to -2, because it's on 2 at the moment, at 6 o'clock. So you need to plot that line. Now this is where I've cheated a bit, and I have gone to a paper copy because I've plotted the line for you. You wouldn't need to plot the line because you wouldn't be holding a phone over an iPad, but if you looked at it, the line would go from 3 p.m, 2 o'clock, across those 3 hours to 6 o'clock. It doesn't tell you it, but it's assuming that you are going to have a consistent line there. Now the mark scheme, if you've looked at the mark scheme says 4 p.m. 4 p.m. isn't actually the correct answer. The correct answer is here, which is 3:45, where it crosses 1 degree. There's always an allowance on questions like this, so really anything between 3:30 and 4 o'clock we'd give you on that. I know the mark scheme says 4 o'clock, but if you were doing this mathematically using skills you might learn in secondary school, it would be 3:45 the correct answer. So I'm going to write the answer there for C as 3:45 p.m. But as I said before, we'd give you anything between 3:30 and 4 o'clock on that one. So let's just check my answers. There's B and there's A. So that's the end of today's work. I did promise Mr. Garley I wouldn't waffle as much. I think I've done well because I've knocked 5 minutes off my time. If you want to have a look at anything else to do, we're going to tweet the links to BBC Bite Size so that you can look again at that percentage work and the fraction work, or maybe have a look at the negative numbers work on Bite Size. Something else you might want to do is, thinking back to where I wrote my date, you might want to think about dates. So, sorry, not dates, you might want to think about Roman numerals, but I'm also thinking about dates. If you're watching something on the TV, particularly on the BBC, look right at the end, it tells you the year that it was first released or the year that it was made. Look for those. If you're out on your walk and you can do it keeping a social distance, have a look at buildings and see if you can see any dates on there. So my little challenges for today are: have a look at some Roman numerals when you're out on your daily exercise, or maybe if you're watching something on the TV, there's lots of repeats on the TV at the moment, so you'll be able to see the BBC always do their dates in Roman numerals, so do other TV channels. Have a look for those, and don't forget to use those BBC Bite Size. I'll see you tomorrow when I try and find a different way of recording the answers to the Year 6 Rapid Reasoning.